this meeting of the Public Service Committee to order. We are being recorded live to be shown on, I believe, just YouTube, not the City of Gardner Channel 8. I would like to thank Mayor Nicholson and Colin Smith for attending today's budget meeting, as well as the department heads in attendance. As always, I will read the announcement. Any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium, subject to a reasonable requirement of the chair as to the number, placement, and operations of equipment used so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Any person intending to make such recording shall notify the chair forthwith. All documents referenced or used during this meeting must be submitted in duplicate to the clerk of the committee. Pursuant to open meeting and public records law, all documents shall become part of the official record of the meeting. Seeing as no one but the gentleman here to record is recording, we shall move forward. We are here to review the budgets of the departments that are, we're an oversight committee, that are within the oversight of the Public Service Committee. So I will start with, did Dan give an idea?
He's on his way from
I want to pick a shorter.
Yeah, I would pick a...
Lindsay, would you like to go first?
Sure.
All right. That is Conservation, and it is on page, the third page.
Nate, if I could just say something real quick. When we submitted this here, I did break out all of the ones that were on the agenda on their own page, just to make it easier. But the budget does have its own page numbers there too. So if you're looking on the budget document too, there's different numbers that are there.
Beautiful.
In terms of pages, but the
Yeah.
dollar signs are the same.
Beautiful, thank you very much, Mayor. I would just like to state for the record that Mayor Nicholson breaking this up in the fashion that he did is going to expedite this meeting and made it much easier for not just us, but for all of the standing committees and the council as a whole. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So does anybody have any questions?
So I guess we kind of just go down the line items saying what they, and if you have any explanations, you do so at that time. It doesn't seem like there's too much, but I'll give you the floor for a minute if you want to explain anything within this budget.
Sure. So the conservation agent salary and wages proposed for FY 2022. The department was $30,385.34, and the mayor's proposed $30,908.03, and I believe that's with the increases, correct?
Yes, we're citywide, we're doing a 2.5% cost of living adjustment this year for all non-union employees. This is something that if you do the dollar to dollar sign figure in the budget itself, it may not it comes up to about 1.72% in the budget, because that's what's the 2.5% is based on the hourly rate of the employees for the hours that are in the upcoming fiscal year. I was pulling that up on my phone here, but the upcoming fiscal year ends on a Wednesday. So it's 52 weeks plus 3 days, so that's where the difference in the 1.75 and the 2.5 comes into play there. So you'll see that throughout the budget document itself, but the cost of living adjustment overall is 2.5% over the employee's hourly rate.
And Mayor, what is it for the union employees? Has that not been negotiated yet? Or?
That is not. We're going with all eight collective bargaining units in the upcoming fiscal year.
Wow, okay, thank you.
Lindsay, that's not the entire salary of this position, right? There's another...
Correct. There's a planning, a position it's partially under the planning board.
Beautiful. I just wanted that noted to anyone that might not have caught that it's not the entire salary of that employee.
The board commission and salary wages, there's no change at $5,500. Going down to professional development and travel, it's proposed at $750. There's been no change from the prior fiscal year. Office supplies are at $100. There's been no change since the prior fiscal year. And that is all.
How much, this is something I could look up, how much of the professional development and travel budget was used?
We are going to, this coming Friday, have for the entire council, May 31st, year-to-date expenditures. The auditor just had to wait for the month to end to be able to pull that. We should have that by the end of the day tomorrow, and it'll go out to the council on Friday. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Would you say most of that?
I believe most of it
All right,
has been used.
All right, any questions? All right. Thank you very much. You can hang out, or if you need to go, you may go. Up next is Dan Forty, the Recreation and Athletic Director. You've done a hell of a job.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate that.
All right, your budget's on,
Somewhere. No idea the page number, but it's right here.
there we go.
Councilor Boudreaux, just to clarify what I said earlier, there are 261 days worth of pay in the upcoming fiscal year, so that's what the 2.5% is built on.
All right, thank you, Mayor. You can either start with recreation or municipal recreation.
He is just municipal.
Just
You
municipal.
are just municipal
Yep.
recreation.
So, pretty simple. So the top line is my personal side of the salary for my city pay. The second piece there is $4,000. When we originally built the recreation program, the summer program, years ago, the budget was for one supervisor. So it was a half-day camp with, however many kids we would have there. We had 60 that year with 7 employees. So that was enough to cover a supervisor for the summer. The line for $3,500, that line is used to pay for recreational programs throughout the course of the year. So when you see rec soccer, the indoor clinic that we ran, or rec basketball, which everyone's come to know, that's how we pay those stipends each year. We call them coaches. I think somewhere they're called coaches. They're just what they're called. Playground salaries and wages, that's the pay that I use to start paying for actual camp counselors or program counselors for the summer. $26,000 was enough to cover the 7 staff members that we carried the first year of the summer camp. We'll come back to that. Uniform allowance, we like to brand ourselves with the rec gear. Also, it's just, for the supervisors at the camp, it's just a way to differentiate them. The balance of uniforms we pay for out of the revolving account that we've established. Minor equipment, really never had to spend that money up until this year to scale up. We can talk about that as well, because we did a lot of scaling. But that was just, as stuff came up. The first year we bought shirts with it. The second year our plan was to buy walkie-talkies with it. We were going to use soccer balls that we had donated and salvaged, and basketballs at the high school, just to keep the cost low. So that line, $1,000, more than covered that, especially not knowing what we'd ever really need to spend that on right now. And then office supplies, got everything I need. A pen once in a while, so I just steal them from the high school. It's fine. So yeah, that's on its surface, it's a budget built off of a program that we started 3 or 4 years ago with no idea where it was going, and obviously it's potentially expanded quite a bit. So yeah, any questions so far?
On the city's full end of it, in terms of the revolving account that is required to be voted every year by the city council. So when the budget is finally voted on by the council, it'll be salaries, expenses, and then revolving account. So that vote there will have the balance of the revolving account and the authorization to continue the use of the revolving account further, because that's something that has to be voted on an annual basis. And in terms of the $30,000, just because we mentioned that we are doing the cost of living adjustments, the way that this position is run is it's matched at the same rate as the school department is paying for the athletic director position, just to keep it easier in the treasurer's office as we move forward there. And so it's kind of easier for the employee to determine what they're actually getting that year. It's a certain percentage of the overall pay that's contracted out. In terms of the expenditure, the transfer that was voted on earlier by the city council to appropriate the money that we had in the councilors' pay wages for the past year where we didn't hold a camp. Dan, you want to talk about the equipment that we got with some of that money?
Yep.
And there was a Rockwell grant also awarded for user fees.
Yeah, that's separate though.
Okay.
So those funds that we carried over were originally, we carried over because we didn't know what large expenditures we might potentially have to make. So the first thing that kind of hit us was we might need to set up busing to go from a couple spots in the city to bring kids in, because in our first round of registration for summer program, we had nobody from the village, right? We had not a single kid out of the first 100 or so. So we explored and priced out a bus, which isn't cheap. We didn't end up needing the bus, so that's money that we won't end up spending on a bus. We probably won't end up spending it on anything, to be perfectly honest, because we ended up seeing trickle in a good percentage. So we weren't, over-indexing in one part of the city and not the other. I think it matched the demographic that the city represents. So if it ever is needed down the road, it's $6,000 for a bus to offer up transportation for the year. But I don't think we'll ever have to go that route, thankfully. We also then threw around the idea of buying a shed, potentially to house all this stuff in. I was able to get a storage trailer for free, so I now have a storage trailer with a lock on it that holds all the fun sports stuff in the world for kids. That's located at the high school, right at the center of the whole camp, and that didn't cost us anything either, which was nice. So the rest of those funds have really been used to ramp up all the different programs that we want to be able to run now and grow down the road, right? So instead of borrowing soccer balls from the various, groups in town, we bought soccer balls. They're not super expensive, but we bought enough. Basketball is the same thing, and then just, name the sports that we do right down the line. We've also built out a purchase for art supplies because we run an art week. We're building out a purchase for drama supplies because we're running a drama week at the summer program. And then we also built out purchases for STEM, because we're running a STEM week that I don't know how to run yet. It should be interesting with all this cool stuff. So we've built out those purchases. We'll use those funds to make a one-time purchase that is more than we need for this upcoming year, but is meant to feed us for a long time, so that minor equipment budget is meant to just upkeep and maintain. A couple soccer balls grow legs, we buy a couple soccer balls, right? So that was kind of the idea there. If anybody has any questions about how that money was spent, or cool.
And then the municipal recreation department is also going to be picking up the movies in the park this year, so that's something that we are adding to the municipal rec department. But
Not Judy?
So excited, no matinee in the Monument Park.
Yeah.
So that's something we'll probably just assign some of the supervisors or counselors to just oversee there. And we use the speakers at the bandstand and the projector and screen that are also located at the bandstand for that purpose.
Can I just ask, the money in the revolving account is money that's been donated to the program, correct?
As of now, it's a combination. So it's money that's been donated and also money that's been raised through our clinics that we run, right? So when we run the soccer clinic, we take in funds. It's not a lot, but we take it in.
Are you relying on those funds to help you with salaries this year?
Yeah, so ultimately the goal with this is to be able to, we want to pay for ourselves ultimately, right? We want to be, but we don't know what that looks like yet. So the revolving account was set up. We're taking in user fees for the summer program that will pay out our salaries for across the rest of the year. And the goal is to raise enough in user fees to pay those salaries and be at zero at the end of the year when it comes to it, right? That also gives us an idea of what it will cost, but that's kind of a dangerous game, right? We don't really know what that will be, but when we scale from 50 to 60 kids to 150 registrants, one supervisor turns into 3. 7 counselors turns into 29, right? Like it's a different workload. But that's why the rec department set up the revolving account, was to be able to build those funds in versus going to just ask for more money that we don't know we need yet. Does that make sense?
Right, but there's a possibility, because the program's doing fabulous and it is growing, but there's a possibility of the need for more salary money for next year if it continues to grow at the rate it is.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, we for next year want to grow into a playground program as well. So, we want the destination, the hub, to be at the school, especially with the elementary school coming. It's familiar, it's safe, it's welcoming for kids. That might be the only familiar place they know outside of their house in some cases. We also want to set up playground programs, right? So, Darren's not here, but he tells us stories about the Bickford Bears. Those playground programs are walk-up. That has a real place in our city as well. And those funds will have to come from somewhere if we want to grow it. We're hoping these programs do well, but walk-up playground programs don't generate user fees, right? The summer program does, but the playground programs in the summer won't. So those funds will have to come from somewhere. Realistically, no idea what that will cost yet.
There's no more summer up, anything like that at all in conjunction with the mount?
Correct. This all came to be because that came to an end outside of our control. I mean, that wasn't
Yeah,
Gardner cutting that just didn't.
there was a state plan.
Yeah, it didn't happen anymore, so we want to give kids a place to play. But there's still definitely a need for walk-up. Like, that's a huge deal for us. We want to grow to that point at some point where parents can choose. It's free to walk up and know that I've got at least a couple counselors there to play, kickball, arts. If it rains, they don't go. But also have the summer program for that more, in-depth experience.
Now, Merrick, this is kind of a question for you, and you might not have even gotten to this point yet. Is there any portion, even a sliver, of the American Rescue Plan funds that could potentially go to something like something like this type of program?
We're looking into it. The city's expected to get $6.3 million right now from the American Rescue Plan, but it's very restricted as to what we can and can't do. I think the 5 approved uses are supplementation of municipal lost revenue. Really, the only place that we saw our revenue hit during the past year was in our hotel tax that we have. Providing premium pay to employees who worked full hours during the pandemic. The investment in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, and economic recovery in terms of providing grant funding to local businesses or to assist in pandemic-related expenses, so if we still had anything carried over from the clinic and things like that. So there's not much in the guidance yet to see something like this, mainly because this is a municipal option. We don't have to have a rec camp, but we have to fund our regular operating budget, which is why they're only saying revenue, not new programming. So that's what we're at, but we are still asking the question. Sure.
So as is everybody, it's just good to be thinking about it, and I knew you were. You care about this stuff, Matt. All right, unless you have else or something else, somebody has a question?
No, I'm very happy to hear about a walk-up program. I was part of the Jackson crew growing up, so it was very important and it was very much needed. And whether you went to the Red Sox to the bleachers or you just walked to the Greenwood pool, it was just a fabulous service that it did to the kids and the parents.
Yeah, we think it has a big place still. So, especially with all the money we've dumped into playgrounds and making them look nice and safe. A kid plays at all of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, we had talked about starting it up this year, but we figured we'd start
Yeah.
slow.
There's nothing really holding us back. I mean, financially, we could have figured it out. I think we've got the room to do it. It's just scaling the program to 3 times the size that it was a pandemic ago. A pandemic ago. And then also trying to scale to 4 to 5 different locations in town just didn't seem safe, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, I'm kind of a control freak, but I'd like to be there for the new pieces, and I just don't feel confident in that yet. So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Also, sorry I was late. Thought it was a Zoom, like my first one in a year and a half, so.
All good.
Cool.
I'd like to thank you for coming out, and really the work you're doing and the promotion you're doing for the entity is noted by everybody. A lot of people are talking about the great work that program is doing in such a short time, both on the athletic side and with the city. So
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Now we will go back to our original list and start with the Honorable Dane Arnold.
Wow, quite an intro. I don't know if you want to go through every single line item or just some of the big ones. The Public Works, if you look at the maintenance crew, that's obviously my entire, there's 26 employees that are paid out of this, including the mechanics and everyone down in the garage. The overtime, if you look, the overtime fee is $50,000 we have it in. But if you look at past years, we've spent anywhere between 75 and 100. We haven't requested any money from Finance Committee in the past because we have a pretty quick turnover sometimes with our staff. So we more or less, if there's money remaining in our maintenance crew, we take it from the maintenance crew and put it in the overtime to cover the cost. So, so we don't have to take it from the general fund. Repairs and maintenance, the $200,000, that's what we spend on vehicle repairs for all our heavy equipment and all our city-owned vehicles, not including water and sewer. Traffic maintenance, parking maintenance, that's all our signs and line painting throughout the city. It's split into two. The parking meter maintenance is the 20,000. That's actually for anything down within the metered areas, including the parking lots, all your parking spaces on your street, any line painting down on the metered areas. So it's broke out into two different accounts.
And that's required by law. We're only allowed to spend revenue from the parking meters on parking-related expenditures. We take in over $100,000 a year in the parking meters. That money can only be used for that, so that's why we always break out parking meter. You'll see that in the treasurer's office in the salary of the person who collects the meters. You'll see that in the police department in the pay for the officers who go out and inspect the meters are paid, and that's the same thing with this one here. Sorry.
Street lighting, that's pays for all our street as far as the energy required to light the city, and it also pays for our the maintenance, because we've taken over ownership of the lights. Any lights that goes out, we hire a contractor, comes in, get a list together and replace a couple of lights, try to bang them out all at once. The tree planting, snow and ice is, again, level funded. Road maintenance at 220, that is, I'm sorry, vehicle fuel at 220, that's fuel for all the DPW vehicles, again, not including any enterprise accounts, but DPW include police, fire, and city hall vehicles. And that includes diesel and gas. Road maintenance at 120 grand, that's basically all the maintenance throughout for our potholes in the city, any drainage work, sidewalk work, curbing, anything that has to do with our streets. The maintenance within the city is taken out of that account. And then the road resurfacing at 150 grand, we try to keep strictly for resurfacing new roads. That's DPW. Does anybody have any questions?
And again, with the non-union staff on this one, it's a 2.5% cost of living adjustment on the employee's hourly rate, and then there's 2% built in for all of the unions throughout the budget. And then in the mayor's unclassified account is a negotiation reserve account. That way, after the negotiations are done, we can move the money into where it's appropriately meant to be after the negotiations are completed. But a lot of the first half of this page are contractual items.
All right, any questions?
No. I just appreciate the explanation on parking meters, because last year I couldn't figure out why there were so many line items in the budget for parking meters, maintenance, salary.
Yeah.
All right, that's the fastest we've ever done that.
Well, I didn't know if you want to go through every single line item we can. Water and sewer, there's going to be a lot of the same line items between water and sewer. But I'm looking at water at this particular time. You'll notice a jump in the crew from 291 up to 330, 386. That's, we're taking on 2 additional employees in the water and sewer, which are split. This is to the DEP. They do what they call a sanitary survey, and we sat down a couple of weeks ago and we had a telephone conversation. They're going to start making us go out and start turning valves and doing a flushing program that is going to require a lot more labor intense, and also sewer flushing. That they're going to start looking at the municipalities, making it a little bit more labor intensive, and there's no way we'll be able to do it with the existing staff. So I asked the mayor if I could get 2 employees, 1 out of water, 1 out of sewer, split 50-50, and we increased the salary range for that. Overtime, that one increased from 25 to 30 only in water, because I found this year we had our water breaks that we have. I didn't have enough overtime money in my account to cover the water breaks that we had, and I think it's kind of the first year we had a whole year of running it.
And they only break at night.
Yeah. And it's 0 degrees. So that was an increase. Repairs and maintenance, the $25,000, that is the vehicle maintenance for the water and sewer. The city doesn't pay for the maintenance of the water and sewer vehicles. Again, you're going to see the same line items in sewer department. Repairs to mains, that is going to be replacing any water gate valves, if we're going to do some water replacement in-house, any hydrants, purchasing of structures, any work that's done on the water system is taken out of that line item.
Can I ask a question about a further past line item? the water sewer emergency line, wouldn't, and this is, I believe, a legislative matter, or I don't know if this is something the mayor could check, would it make sense to be able to deficit spend like you can the snow and ice line, or just because you'd never know how many,
Statutorily, we can.
so it would have to go through the legislature?
Yeah. Yeah, we can only deficit spend COVID-related line items or snow and ice-related line items.
In the event that I did deficit spend, I would have to steal from one account and go back and beg council to say, this is what happened. And, that's kind of what we have to do.
All right, disregard.
Energy and utilities, you'll notice that has a big price tag. That's what it costs to operate our water facilities, our Snake Pond and James Street Booster Station and Crystal Lake. It's pretty expensive. We use a lot of electricity to produce water. Chemical supplies, the 112,000, that's again what we spend on chemicals to treat down again Snake Pond and up at Crystal Lake. We have a chemical line item in the sewer department as well, which we'll get to.
Can I just ask, you skipped over professional services for 25,000. What does that encompass?
That would be, it covers a bunch of things. Whether we have to pay for a dumpster down in some of the facilities, it's a professional service we're paying for. In the event that we might have to hire a consultant to do a small study, it wouldn't be a large study, but more or less to hire like a small study. If we get a permit or something like that where we have to review, I would hire a consultant and pay for them out of professional services.
And that's something that's done regularly?
It's done quite a bit, yeah. And another thing, while you might ask what WPAT, administrative fees, it's what we have to pay the state to take water out of our own lake. So
It's a good deal, though.
Yeah. Did you negotiate that?
Yeah. Any questions? I mean, there's paybacks on loans.
You'll see at the bottom of the sheet, there's the total water expenses, and then at the bottom, the highlighted number says the total water fund. That's because there are indirect costs, just like at the schools, that pay for the health insurance, the flex benefits, the fringe benefits, excuse me, of the employees who work for the water department, who are paid out of the water enterprise account, but their benefits are budgeted in the general fund account. So some of the budget for the water enterprise and the other enterprises as well is considered general fund revenue, paying for the services that we have budgeted in the general fund. So we only have one health insurance line item, only one dental insurance line item, and those are funded in part per the proportion of the number of employees that are funded out of the enterprise accounts. So that's why there's an extra total line item there.
Some of the other indirect costs also is when the water and sewer department does a contract, we're using the city's procurement officer, we're using the city solicitor, so we kind of offset some of the costs as well.
And that's with every enterprise account.
Yep.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Sewer.
Sewer, again, you're gonna see a lot of the same titles. Maintenance crew, again, is the same, should be the same number as what's in the water. It's split, my employees they both work water and sewer, so we split their salaries 50-50. Overtime, we don't typically get as much overtime in the sewer department. We might have a sewer backup. It's hard to budget how many you're gonna get a year where we're going in on the weekends or at night, so I think we've used 10 grand to date, but again, I just don't know. Repairs to mains, the 100,000, that's the exact same thing as what we have for the sewer. That would be for, if we have a blockage, we have to go out and excavate and make the repairs, buying all the structures, the manhole covers. I can fund some of the sewer relining. We have a contractor that's gonna come in and do some sewer relining. That will all come out of that line item as well. New equipment, you'll notice last year it was 185. We bought an excavator. This year it's went down to 50, so we're probably looking at like a pickup or something. We're trying to put together a capital plan as well. So a couple of line items went up, a couple of them went down. Energy and utilities, that's what it costs to run the wastewater plant in Templeton. It's 216 grand. It's a budget. The chemicals, it costs more to operate the wastewater plant at 217 grand than it does the wastewater, than it does the water department. There's just more chemicals that are needed to treat, so it's not cheap. If anyone has any questions?
Unnecessary evil. You do airport, right?
No.
No?
I'll take care of that one. Anthony makes it. He's got recreation too.
Recreation.
General recreation. Which next year will probably change the title of this budget so it's not as confusing between the municipal recreation department and what was municipal grounds converted to recreation, and now we'll see what to do after. Yeah, probably.
Is everybody, holiday lighting, that's for the downtown lighting and Monument Park lighting in Lafayette Square lighting?
Yeah. We help supplement the memorial lights that Square 2 does. Square 2 needs about $20,000 every year in order to light what they currently light in the downtown. We provide them, we have provided them, I think, since 2011, funding to be able to do the full downtown rather than just Monument Park. That's why when you go through the downtown, we're able to light a lot more trees than we have in front of the Bullnose building down by Lafayette Square behind the Spanish-American War Monument, is because we were able to help them out there. They traditionally raise between $5,000 and $7,000. We give them 15 out of this account. The remaining 2,500 goes to the wreaths that go on the different light posts in the downtown area. So that's what funds that, and why it also sounds similar to Square 2's activities of the memorial lights is to make sure that we can light all of downtown rather than just Monument Park.
Do we own the wreaths?
We do.
Okay. So it's, the cost is to?
Repairs, upkeep, and electricity.
Is it cheaper sometimes to just replace them than to repair them when you get to that extent? I mean,
We
that's been my
replaced them.
experience.
I think we had the old ones, maybe it lasted 20 years, and we just replaced them,
Okay.
I'm gonna say 3, but it's probably 5 years ago. But
Yeah.
they, so we,
Mhm.
I think we just replaced the lights, a lot of them, new LED lights, that we just bought them at Walmart, so we do it all in-house on a rainy
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. We did have an instance, I think it was 3 years ago, where someone broke into the South Gardner fire station and took the copper wiring out of them. So that kind of was what prompted us to get the newer ones that we have. But they're LED, so we actually are saving some money on
Uh-huh.
them.
And now they're stored here in the cold storage building behind lock and key.
Yeah.
My hope is that there'll be enough lights someday to, like when you're going down Monument Park, the tree that looks like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I never figured out why there weren't lights on that, but just that's my own.
So I asked about that this year. And it was
Did
just-
you?
Yes. The reason why the vendor never did it was because he was told, try to put it in places that you think people wouldn't break the lights. And he was afraid that it'd be too close for someone to just come up and pull a light bulb or break it. But it will be lit
Thank
this
you.
year. It will be lit this year.
Excellent.
Celebration events, that's a cost of the events that go on in the city. Playground improvements, that's more or less a maintenance line item for the playgrounds as far as netting, or if we have some work to do down at OC or these different playgrounds, swings, things like that break, that need to be repaired.
The celebration events line item, really what that covers is the cost of the food truck festival. That's not covered by the payments that come in for the vendors. And that's if any police details costs come in over what the vendors bring in, and that's pretty much it. The alcohol tent has to pay for their own police detail by state law. The trucks pay for their own permitting through the police department, the Board of Health, and the fire department, and we charge them an extra $50 on top of all of that to cover the cost of the 2 police officers that we have as details at the event. If anything else just comes, and the trash collection, excuse me. That's associated with the event because we do bring in extra toters for that. If anything comes in over that, it's traditionally been under this $1,000, so we put that in there as a buffer just to make sure we have money to cover any extra costs.
Any questions?
I think that's it for me.
With that, just Mike, we talked to the mayor and but so there are rumors that a certain very large festival will not be returning post-pandemic, and I would hope that the city can do something to light up downtown in the summer / early fall as well.
We're working on it.
Thank you. Do you want to do airport?
Sure.
And then we'll let Chris
Wrap it up.
wrap it up.
So the Airport Commission has traditionally run the airport in and of itself for the past several years. A lot of people ask why we still have an airport in the budget and why we still operate if it's only really got 8 to 10 hangars that we currently rent out to different people. Federal regulations and statute mandate that if we were to close the airport, we would have to pay back the federal government all of the grant money that they provided us for the past 50 years, which would equate to about $3.4 million. So as a way to avoid having that cost come all at once, we have still funded the airport at what its minimum requirement is to run. But with that, you'll notice in the department request to what was actually put forward in my budget, the only thing that wasn't funded was the salary of an airport manager. And the reason for that is, and it looks like there was a shift in the lines here, and I can get you a corrected version, that $20,000 was supposed to be the airport manager salary, and if you look at the bottom of the page, there's one line missing from the requested items there, so I'll make sure to get that updated there. The reason is the commission members have really taken on managing the airport all by themselves on their own free time. That includes mowing the lawn, that includes paying someone out of the fees that are collected in from the hangar rentals to just come in and make sure that the gas station at the airport for the jet fuel is running, because we do have a jet fuel pump at the airport in which the planes that land there can fill up, and it is just like the gas station where you pay at the pump and it puts that much gas in, making sure all those systems are running functionally. All of the members of the airport commission are getting a little up there in age, so they are looking at retiring and moving on from that type of work in the near future, so they are requesting that we start looking at whether or not it's feasible to have a part-time manager there just to come check in, mow the lawn, make sure all of that is going there. The runways were resurfaced right before the pandemic last year with grant funding from the FAA. So there's still more operations that are going on, and I think the year prior to the pandemic as well, they added an additional 6 hangars through an FAA grant as well that they can rent out. And the bookkeeping for the airport itself is done by that new shared position in the HR department where they're covering golf, airport, IT, and HR. So that's that second person that's housed in the HR department there too. So they have all the billing and finances for that department as well. Other than that, it's pretty much level funded in the airport's budget. And again, I'll get you a copy that shows that extra line here. But basically, if you look at the mayor's budget, where that 20,000 has that 0 there, you can bump that down so there'd be another 0 in terms of office supplies. And the 100 would go with the 100 and the 500 would go with the 500. I just noticed that here now. But everything else is the same as has been budgeted for the airport for the past decade and a half.
Whereas this isn't a ton of money and recreational flight is a niche affair, it does get a lot of use. I live directly under it, and my dog, who hates buses, loves airplanes. So it doesn't really make sense, but it gets some use, and it's good to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good?
All right, close it out.
All right. So the survey budget covers myself as well as the GIS coordinator. Primarily level funded, a few exceptions. If we go down the list, information technology at $6,000. That is the software package for our GIS system that you see on the city's website, as well as all the back end that we use
day to day. Professional services, similar to what Dane said, they're typically for consultant fees. Like for me, I cover all of the dams that aren't related to the water department, so those are on a rotating inspection list that covers most of that. Or if we're doing any sort of design projects, like maybe like one of the new rotary projects through the state.
You'll see that's why that professional services line item was cut so much between the department's request and my request, is there was a design for the Uptown Rotary?
No, the 2A and 68.
2A and 68.
Gas station 99 is right.
That at one point in time was going to be a rotary. Either way, the intersection does need to be adjusted in some way per the state's regulations there, but that's on the traffic improvement plan that wasn't funded. We don't know when we're going to be funded on it, so rather than budgeting it for now and continuing to encumber it as we move forward, we put in what we know we're actually going to need this year. And as that grant may or may not come forward from there, then we'll deal with it out of a free cash expenditure when it comes up, because it's a one-time cost.
Yeah, the timeline's a bit wishy-washy with where we're moving forward with that. What we do know is the Uptown Rotary's coming December 2022, so we'll focus on that for now. The other big change you'll see is under EPA NIPDES line item. It's going from 20 to 40. The EPA NIPDES is our regulation for stormwater handed down by the EPA. This past year, we've gone to every outfall in the city and taken a sample of it to find out if there's any sort of pollutants, like say a washing machine is tied into it, you're getting a lot of suds, or if there's any sort of fuel leakage. We anticipate we'll need to make some sort of structural changes at the outfalls that get flagged for something that's not supposed to be there. So that should cover that in this coming year and help us maintain compliance.
And you can track that kind of illegal connection, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, so we'll be able to work it all the way back. And sometimes you might find it could be from a sewer leak, or it's from somebody with a bad connection in their house, or an illicit discharge. But that's it for me. Otherwise, it's level funded from last year.
All right, any questions? Any questions for absolutely anybody here? No? All right, we good on here. Council requests? Councilor Mack?
Nothing.
Councilor Harder?
I have no request, but a thank you to Mr. Mayor and Wayne Arnold for Harvard Street. Made a lot of people happy, thank you.
My only request is something that I spoke with Dan about earlier. I would like the service committee and any counselors that are available, or any member of any office, to be able to take a tour of all of the facilities under the oversight of the Public Service Committee. We did it a few years ago. It was hot, it was fun, so I'd like to do that again. And other than that, thank you to everybody who attended today, and thank you to the gentleman from the TV station for coming and recording today. It was last minute and it was greatly appreciated. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.